Hello there and welcome. If you're a human being, you've probably dealt with things like failure and disappointment. Yesterday, I hosted a workshop on exactly that, the fear of failure. And what became apparent for most of the participants was the one thing that feels really hard about failure is the disappointment they might feel. So I looked up a few words that relate to disappointment. What are some synonyms of disappointment so we can understand this feeling better? And here are some words. We can feel disenchanted, disillusioned, frustrated, unfulfilled, or discouraged. And you know what I realized is, as I was reading some articles about it, is disappointment is a form of sadness. In fact, of loss. When we feel like we absolutely have to have something in order to feel happy or fulfilled, and that thing doesn't happen, we feel this loss, this sadness. And that's why it's a really difficult feeling to feel. Sadness, loss, we have to grieve, and it's painful. On top of that, what can happen is if we if we had a goal that we wanted to reach, and that goal failed, sometimes what we do is we blame ourselves if it had anything to do, if we think it had anything to do with our own efforts. So if we had a goal and we worked towards that goal and we did actions and we stepped into it and we didn't reach it, we can feel like it was my fault somehow. I should have done better. I should have made this work. I should have known how to do this. All of those kind of things. It was something was wrong with me. So now we have a double whammy of really difficult things to deal with. So let's do a little bit of tapping around disappointment and then maybe some self-blame as well. And I want to remind you just before we start tapping, just to take responsibility for your own well-being in this moment, since I'm not there with you. If you feel big emotions come up for you, just keep tapping and make sure that you take care of yourself. The other reminder is this little bit of, I'll call it public tapping here, is not a replacement for proper, well-informed, well-structured tapping with an EFT practitioner who can help you to guide to the things that are at the core and root of your issue. Having said that, let's jump into some tapping. Think of a time where you had an apparent failure and you felt really disappointed that then that thing didn't happen. Just tune into that for a moment. It may not be comfortable, that's okay. We're going to tap for that now. The failure, the disappointment of that thing not happened. I can share an example for me often is I have an idea for an offer or a workshop. I put it out there and there's silence, there's crickets. That disappointment, like, oh, I'd love to run this workshop. And then there's this huge gap between what I want and reality, what actually happens. And that gap, that there is what makes us feel this disappointment. I thought I needed that thing in order to make me happy. So tune into your own. Feel where in the body you might pick up any discomfort, any tension, any sensation about it, and how high on a scale of 0 to 10 this disappointment is. And let's go ahead and do some tapping with that. So starting on the side of the hand. Even though I feel so disappointed that that thing didn't happen, I soothe and comfort myself. Even though I feel this disappointment in my body, my whole body, mind, everything in me is disappointed, I soothe and comfort myself. Even though I feel so disappointed that that thing didn't happen, I soothe and comfort myself. And then tapping through the points, I'm just going to use simple words. Tap through in the order that you want to tap, how fast or how slow you want to tap, and just keep tapping with me. All this disappointment. I I really wanted that thing to happen and it didn't. And I felt disappointed. I felt this loss about it. I really thought having that would make me happy. And when it didn't happen, obviously I felt unhappy and sad and a loss. This loss of that thing that didn't happen. The sadness that that thing didn't happen. We're just going to do another round with some of the other words I mentioned earlier. I felt so disillusioned. Might even have felt disenchanted, maybe with life. Life is just not working the way I think it should work. Or life is not working the way I want it to work. I felt frustrated. I put in all that effort. I did what I thought was the right thing and it still didn't happen. All this frustration about that thing that didn't happen. And this unfulfillment, this feeling of it didn't happen and I needed that to happen to feel fulfilled and happy. And the discouragement, oh boy, I felt so discouraged. I put in my all, I put in all my energy and effort. I did what I could and it still didn't happen. Of course, I feel discouraged. And then rest your arms, take a nice deep breath in. Let it out like a big sigh. And then tune in to your disappointment again. A thing that you wanted to happen, goal, and you failed. Just notice what you experience now about the feeling of disappointment. Maybe it's not all gone, and I would actually not expect it to be if it was a big thing for you and we've just only done 2 rounds of tapping. In that case, rewind or play this part again and do some more tapping with it until it feels as close as possible to 0 for you. And also you may need to work with a practitioner to help you to get to all the aspects that are contributing to this for you. And then I thought maybe let's move on to a little bit of tapping around self-blame. Parts of us that are angry with ourselves. It was my fault somehow. I should have known better. I should have done better. I should have reached it. All the shoulds and coulds. Let's do some tapping around that. So just tuning into your goal or the thing that you failed at again and see if there's any place in that where you feel maybe blame, criticizing yourself, not from anybody else, from yourself. Let's do some tapping around that. Even if there's just a little spark of it, let's use that. Even though I blame myself for this failure, I soothe and comfort myself anyway. Even though I blame myself, I should have done this better, I soothe and comfort myself. Even though it's all my fault, I should have done this better, I soothe and comfort myself. The self-blame. I blame myself for this not having happened. I blame myself for this disappointment. Maybe I should have worked harder. Maybe I should have tried harder. I blame only myself. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe somebody else could have done this. What on earth is wrong with me that I could not do this? And we're just going to do another round. All this blame, all this criticizing myself. This part of me, my inner critic, that's really having a field day right now about how I could have done better. I could have done better. Maybe somebody else would have done it right. Maybe somebody else would have succeeded. All this blame and self-criticism that isn't really helping matters at all, and it's not encouraging me to try again. All this blame and criticism. Nice deep breath in while you rest your arms. And again, I want to repeat that these 2 rounds of tapping on self-blame and criticism possibly did not resolve it all for you. Check in with yourself. How far did it change? Did it go up? Did it go down? And you may need the support of a caring practitioner who can help you get to all of the parts, all of the aspects about this. Often when we blame and criticize ourselves, it's not a once-off thing that we do. We've been doing it maybe for a very long time. That's our pattern. It's how we deal with the world. It's like it's easier if I blame myself, and it could have come from a childhood where we were blamed and criticized. We got the message inside our head that it's all my fault. I should have done it better. You're all to blame. It's your fault that I'm now angry, things like that. And that may need some deeper work than just a couple rounds of tapping. I hope this was helpful anyway. I hope this helped with a little bit of relief around disappointment, failure, criticizing yourself, blaming yourself. Thank you so much for watching.